Hello and welcome to the 571st edition of the Enfield Microphone, Dateline 18th July 1985. And your readers on this occasion are...
Harvey,
Janet,
Joe,
me, Alf, and Peter on the controls. Hi, Pete. In this edition, we report on how the council are being asked to spend more than a penny on improving public toilets. Many residents are saying Meals on Wheels are too expensive. More readings from the history of Bushell Park. Latest book list from RNIB, and Janet, who is giving us further recipes from her collection. Now over to Harvey, who will read the first news item. Harv.
the hearts of the people of Enfield have been touched by the efforts of last weekend's Live Aid concert, and they've responded by digging into their pockets to donate money to help the starving of Ethiopia. At banks and building societies across the borough, the money has been pouring in since Monday morning. At Lloyd's Bank in Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, the manager, Roger Clark, reported a great response to the call for donations, with his branch taking over £1,000 on Monday alone. And at the Abbey National Building Society in Church Street, Enfield, Johnny Anson says the Live Aid appeal is the most successful ever handled by the society. I've been pleasantly surprised because we've had other appeals in the past, and they've been, to a degree, fairly indifferent. This one is no comparison. It has been highly successful, he said. At the Abbey National branch in 4th Street, Upper Edmonton, amounts ranging from £1 to £200 have been pouring in. And the story is the same all over the borough. The assistant manager of the Anglia Building Society in Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, Jill Melvin, described the event as tremendous, while the Trustee Savings Bank, nearby, have called the response enthusiastic. Most of the banks and building societies will continue to take donations for Live Aid for the next few weeks.
Investigate the possibility of banning lead as used by fishermen following complaints that they cause injury and death to swans and ducks. The GLC have already banned their use in their ponds and lakes, including Trent Park. At a meeting of the Council's Leisure and Amenities Committee, members were asked if they wanted to review their policy on lead weights. Chairman of the committee, Councillor Clive Goldwater, told members, "I think that we ought to be doing something. It is a very serious thing. And if we can save the life of one swan or one duck, that is something we ought to be doing." He added that the good relationship the Council has with the Enfield Anglers Council should be used to find out what local fishermen think. The main concern of councillors last week was what they should do if they agreed with the ban. "If we agree it, we ought to know how we are going to enforce it," said Councillor Goldwater. This is probably where the Anglers Council will come in. Members agreed that officers should look into how a ban could be enforced and then report back so the Council can make a decision. They also agreed that the Parks Department should investigate claims that a dye used for colouring fishing bait is dangerous. If the claims are accurate, the Council may consider banning that also.
Proposed service stations on the M25 will put pressure on greenbelt land around Enfield. That was the warning issued to members of the Enfield Preservation Society at their annual meeting by their chairman, Alan Skilton. He said that 12 months ago, the misuse of greenbelt land was a subject of much discussion, and today Mr. Skilton says the misuse remains a continuing threat. In his report, the chairman reminded members that in the past year, the Footpaths Group held 7 working parties and organised 28 guided walks. The Trees Group have also been busy planting 98 trees, with 220 hours being spent looking after 48 planting sites. The Society have also conducted 120 people on the annual walk around Enfield Town, published local historian David Pam's new book, and also published a guided walk through Forty Hill and Balls Cross and 2 picture postcards. Financially, the Society have spent £500 on sponsorship for items as diverse as daffodils for Enfield in bloom to cast iron bollards under the archway Gentleman's Row. After the report, the election of officers was held. Mr. Skilton will remain as chairman. Irene Smith stays as secretary, with Priscilla Lowen as treasurer.
An Edmonton woman is critically ill in hospital after a serious fire at her tower block home. In the early hours of Tuesday morning, police fire crews were called to the 10th floor of Cheshire House, a 20-storey tower block off Montague Road, Upper Edmonton. When they entered the flat, they found Eileen Wells, aged 32, unconscious in the living room. She was taken from the burning flat to a lower floor and given medical aid until she began breathing regularly. She was then taken to North Middlesex Hospital and then transferred to the Billericay Burns unit, suffering from 35% burns. In the aftermath of the blaze, Enfield Council have said there was no danger to other tenants living on the 10th floor and that the fire was restricted to Miss Wells' flat. Other people living on that floor were not at risk, said Paul Wright, Principal Assistant Housing Officer. Front doors are made so they will resist fire and not allow it to spread, he added. Safety precautions within the borough's tower blocks came under review last year, and since then all tenants have been told about fire safety and about the actions taken to make sure fires are not a great danger. Mr. Wright said about Tuesday's fire that no one had been evacuated from Cheshire House and there was no danger to them.
More than 40 residents have cancelled Meals on Wheels and home help services since charges were increased by Enfield Council in March. But the borough's social services department say that the price rise is not solely to blame. 27 residents, mostly elderly or housebound, were no longer using the department's home help service, Enfield's Social Services Committee were told on Monday night. A further 20 had requested a reduced service, and 15 residents are no longer buying the 75p per day Meals on Wheels. Labour opposition social services leader, Councillor Rita Smythe, expressed concern over the cancellation, but Vice Chairman Councillor David Conway said that the figures were very small compared with the number of people using the services. Home help flat rate charges now stand at £2 per week for the 3,750 residents involved, and in March an extra 10p charge went on the 5,000 Meals on Wheels delivered each week across the borough. But Labour Councillor Peter Hammond claimed that the figures did not tell the full story. There have been a number of complaints about the service in the east of the borough, but we have not been told by officers exactly how many. It could be 5, it could be 50, he said. For the sake of 10p, people have had to cancel their meal service, and these are the people in the greatest need, especially in eastern Enfield, where many have had to rely on social security benefits. But Director of Social Services Barry Palmer said that price charges always cause some murmurings of discontent. Some people might not be too keen with the meals, and the extra 10p charge would be the last straw which causes them to cancel, he explained. Deputy Social Services Director Jeff Prosser said after the meeting that every resident who had requested a cancellation had been visited by a member of his staff to determine if withdrawal would cause them acute hardship. If we feel that it does, then we have an appeal process through the Director of Social Services, which can mean that the charges are reduced, he explained.
A Labour councillor has claimed that her mail is being intercepted and on occasions opened and resealed. Councillor Sheila Camp made the claim last Tuesday in the council chamber. Speaking after the meeting, she claimed that post being delivered to her home in Rays Avenue, Upper Edmonton, is being interfered with. I have had stuff go astray both from the Labour Party and CND, of which I am a member. I was particularly angry when I found out that one person had written to me 3 times and the letters didn't arrive. And another time a letter from CND arrived and the envelope looked as if it had been ripped open, said Councillor Camp. Even some CND Christmas cards she had ordered were opened and resealed. She says the attacks on her mail have been intermittent, first starting around August last year. My main objection is that if it is being done deliberately, it is something that should not be going on. There is no way to prove anything one way or another. But I do not feel that people who are members of organisations like CND or the Labour Party should have these suspicions, she added. If it is something wrong with the post office, that is just their inefficiency. But I suspect it is not. It is something more than that. A post office spokesman said this week that they were investigating Councillor Camp's claims.
The Druce family have battled with sharks, survived near starvation, and faced the horrors of tropical diseases and heat exhaustion. They tackled fierce storms, went weeks without seeing other people, and were arrested and held prisoner in strange foreign lands. Now back home in Enfield, the biggest problem faced by the family is whether or not they can find jobs. They returned to Enfield less than a fortnight ago after a 4-year trip around the world in their yacht Gloaming. Now all they have left are their memories and their yacht. Patrick and Sheila Druce sold their house and chain of cake shops to pay for the voyage and are facing the future with the same determination with which they tackled their epic journey. In fact, they're finding it quite a novelty to settle back in what the rest of us think of as a normal life. Finding work is the main priority for Patrick, his two sons, Simon and Julian, and Simon's wife, Sarah. Our aim at the moment is to earn money by whatever means we can. Then we'll look for a proper job, said 24-year-old Simon. Sarah, aged 24, trained as a hairdresser before she went globe-trotting and is hoping to pick up the threads of her career. The rest of the family's time is spent meeting old friends again and finding out how things have changed during the 4 years they have been away. The family hadn't even seen the Palace Garden shopping precinct in Enfield town before, and Simon got some strange looks when he tried to send a telegram. Although most people would consider it glamorous to sail around the world, the Druces are finding it a luxury to have their feet on the ground once more. I enjoy having hot baths with running water, Sarah said. Washing up with hot water, with washing up liquid as well, Simon said. Other gadgets they are enjoying for the first time are flush toilets, washing machines, irons and hairdryers. It is even a treat to be able to buy food easily. During one part of their voyage, the family sailed for 62 days without sighting land, while their supplies of food got alarmingly short. Every time we stood up, we were getting dizzy and had to hold on to something. We were getting really weak. We all lost about 2 or 3 stone, remembered Julian. Patrick said, "We've been on quarter rations for 3 weeks. One day before we got into land, we had just a Christmas pudding between all of us, all day." But as well as the most despairing moments of their voyage, the family have plenty of memories of the good times. Julian particularly remembers the people of Fanning Island, just south of Hawaii. We were invited to a child's first birthday party and were made guests of honour. They had music afterwards with someone playing the guitar and people dancing. It was a fantastic place. Now that they are home and staying at Sheila's mother's home in Cuckoo Hall Lane, Lower Edmonton, the family have decided to give up sailing. They have also, just a bit reluctantly, decided to sell their yacht Gloaming. Patrick said, "None of us have developed a love of sailing. It's a means of getting from one shore to another, but no more. We've done what we wanted to do, and to do it a second time would be an anticlimax. We're quite happy to settle down and earn some money." They all want to travel again and revisit some of the friends they have made. Only this time they will go by plane. One of their ports of call will be Australia, where Patrick and Sheila left their daughter Amanda, who married Australian Peter Moffat during the trip. But wherever they travel to, the Druces will always come home again. Their feeling was summed up by Patrick. "We haven't found another place where we'd rather live than England."
Greyhound racing could be coming to Enfield. The plans are being put forward by Enfield Football Club, who want to hold meetings at their ground in Southby Road. The idea follows the success of a similar venture undertaken by Enfield's Gola League rivals Maidstone, and it has already received the backing of some of Enfield's councillors. At a meeting of the Council Leisure and Amenities Committee, the possibility of greyhound racing was supported. Councillor Clive Goldwater, the committee chairman, told the meeting that along with other councillors and officials, he had visited the Maidstone set up during a greyhound meeting. As far as we are concerned, what we saw at Maidstone was a well-run, pleasant amenity, which we can find no objection to at all. It may be that the Planning Committee on Planning Grounds might make an objection, but our support is support as the amenity community for the borough. After the meeting, Tommy Unwin, chairman of Enfield Football Club, explained the reasons behind the club's approach. He said that although the club received financial backing through sponsorship and had income from the Starlight Rooms beside the ground, greyhound racing would increase their income. "We have got to get on our own 2 feet and we need extra revenue, and this is what I would like to do," said Mr. Unwin. But he added that the plans are still very much in the early stages. "If we do it, we should do it right, and it will be somewhere nice for the whole family to go," he said. Mr. Unwin is probably the best man for the job of bringing greyhound racing to the borough. He is president of the English Owners and Trainers Association for Greyhounds, and he used to raise dogs regularly. Following their visit to Maidstone, members of the Amenities Committee agreed last week to grant landlords consent to the use of Southby Road ground for race meetings. It must now be considered by the Planning Committee if and when the club submit a planning application.
3 young men who took part in an orgy of crime which netted property worth over £32,000 from burglaries at Enfield, Palms Green and Edmonton houses received lengthy custodial sentences at Wood Green Crown Court last Friday. Darren Elks, aged 21, of Berkeley Road, Edmonton, pleaded guilty to 26 offences of burglary, taking cars and assault. He was jailed for 3.5 years and banned from driving for 3 years. Christopher Ackhurst, aged 19, of Wilbury Way in Edmonton, admitted 14 offences of burglary, taking cars and assault. He received 3 years youth custody and was disqualified from driving for a similar period. His brother, Paul Ackhurst, aged 17, of the same address, pleaded guilty to 12 charges, and he was sentenced to 2.5 years of youth custody. And their father, Roy Ackhurst, aged 43, was conditionally discharged for 2 years after admitting 1 charge of handling stolen carpet. Mr. William Thomas, prosecuting, told the court that between last November and the end of March this year, the defendants, to varying degrees, had burgled many homes in the area and stolen a wide variety of property, including video recorders, other electrical equipment, and silverware and jewellery. The 18 burglaries at private houses were carried out while occupiers were out, and entry was normally gained by smashing a rear window or door. Very few items stolen have been recovered by the police. All the defendants confessed when interviewed by police, and some admitted burglaries which had not even been reported by the victims. They had all been in trouble before, although Napier only had 1 minor previous conviction. In sentencing the defendants, Judge Henry Palmer said that Elks and the 2 Ackhurst brothers had taken part in an orgy of crime.
Restoration work at historic Middleton House is causing quite a splash. The pond in the sprawling grounds of the headquarters of the Lee Valley Regional Park Authority in Bulls Cross, Enfield, has been refilled. Engineers from the Thames Water Authority pumped 150,000 gallons of water into the dried-out ornamental pond as part of Lee Valley's programme to restore the grounds around the 200-year-old Middleton House to their former glory. We hope to restore the grounds to their original design, and refilling the pond is part of the plan, said a spokesman. The public have their chance to enjoy the beauty of Middleton House and its surroundings this Sunday, when the park opens their gates at 2 p.m.
This week's ban on heavy lorries has come under attack from one of Enfield's biggest employers, Thorn EMI, who have factories scattered around Enfield. Say the ban on nighttime and weekend factories in London will mean more congestion during the day. Dennis Hutchings is the transport advisor with the Thorn EMI, as well as the president of the Freight Transport Association. And this week he criticised the High Court judgment which allows the Greater London Council to put their ban into operation. It will force nighttime traffic onto the roads during the day, right smack into the rush hour, he said. And Mr. Hutchings has also hit out at the date set for the start of the ban, mid-December. This is the peak period for many businesses, just before Christmas, he said. He claims that a ban on heavy lorries could also threaten jobs, not just in Enfield but throughout London. The ban is on large lorries over 16.5 tonnes, so companies would have to use smaller vehicles if they wanted to get into London during the night and at weekends. If you do not let heavy lorries come into London to keep factories going, you have got to take in lots of smaller lorries which will need a lot more space, burn a lot more fuel and produce a lot more pollution, he said. Nicholas Ridley, the Minister for Transport, who lost the High Court case this week, must now decide whether or not to appeal against the decision. Meanwhile, the ban will take effect in December, which means heavy lorries cannot travel within the 300 square miles marked out by the GLC, between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. weekdays and from 1 p.m. on Saturdays to 7 a.m. on Mondays. Thorn EMI will come within the ban because they have factories in the Great Cambridge Road, Lincoln Road, and depots and factories in other parts of the borough.
An Edmonton woman died instantly when she was struck by a train. Carol Francis, aged 45, of Barrowfield Close, Edmonton, was on the pedestrian level crossing at Peganoid Road, Upper Edmonton, last Thursday afternoon. She was struck by a train driven by James Thompson from Ilford, which was travelling north from Angel Road Station, Edmonton. Ambulance men attended the scene, but the woman had died instantly. An inquest into her death was opened and adjourned at Hornsey Coroner's Court on Tuesday morning.
The planned shutdown of Edmonton Bus Garage has been attacked by Edmonton Labour Party. At a meeting of the party's General Council, a motion condemning the plan was agreed. They claim that moving services to Ponders End Garage in Southbury Road was just transferring the alleged environmental problems from Tranway Avenue to Ponders End. They also claim that the move would create more traffic hazards in an already congested area. The party sees this not only as a threat to jobs, but as part of London Regional Transport's programme of cuts in services and the ultimate privatisation of transport in the Greater London area. Labour's recently elected prospective parliamentary candidate, Brian Grayston, will be meeting with the unions from Tramway Avenue to discuss opposition to the closure, the meeting was told.
The amalgamation of pairs of junior and infant schools across the borough could be finalised by September 1986. Already consultation meetings with parents and council officers have started, and early indications are that the plans are accepted in principle by parents. Enfield Council decided to try to amalgamate sets of junior and infant schools to form single units, and a large number of early retirements among head teachers mean this is possible. But first, they must consult parents and staff. This process started when officers met with around 70 people concerned with Lavender Infants and Junior Schools in Enfield. Kim Riley, the Principal Administrative Officer for Schools, said after the meeting that the reaction was reasonably favourable. The parents have, by and large, been responsive to the idea of amalgamation, he said. Their main concern is what will happen during implementation of the scheme. The present head teacher at the junior school is retiring this year, which would leave the school without a permanent head for 1 year. Mr. Riley said the council would not allow that to happen. An acting head would be appointed to caretake for a year. Consultation with all the parents of the schools across the borough is due to finish in July. Then the council will make a final decision to go ahead with the scheme. Any minor building works which will have to be carried out will then be worked on in time for September 1986.
Homeless teenagers will have a hope of finding a place to live. Enfield Council's Housing Committee were due to consider on Tuesday whether to change their policies towards housing young people. The new move is a direct result of the Department of Health and Social Security's new rules for paying the board and lodgings of people on supplementary benefit. At present, single people under 21 are not usually considered for housing by the council. Not if the person is young, fit and well and capable of looking for their own accommodation. The law doesn't say we have a responsibility for them, said Jim Farrell, Enfield's Director of Housing. But since April, unemployed people under 26 who are living in the borough have been allowed to claim only board and lodging payments for up to 6 weeks. After that, they have to move out of London. This has led to criticisms that youngsters are being made homeless and forced to sleep rough. On Tuesday, the Housing Committee were due to consider 4 proposals for dealing with the situation. These included reviewing the Council's policies towards housing homeless teenagers.
Enfield Social Democrats have labelled the Council's Community Relations Programme as inadequate and unsuitable. The party's Vice Chairman Bob Fitzgerald said that the Council ignore the fact that 22% of the population of Enfield are overseas origin. Its community evaluations and relations set up as one of the smallest and most understated in London. Mr. Fitzgerald added that the SDP would continue to strive for community harmony by supporting ethnic minority, monitoring of housing allocation and improved facilities for teaching of residents' mother tongues. And with that item, we've come to the halfway stage in our programme, so if you would like to stop your machine and turn the cassette over, we'll meet you again on the other side.
The system is aimed at saving Eastern Gas £250,000 a year, and it follows the successes of a trial scheme in Luton and Ipswich. It is expected to spread to consumers throughout the borough in the coming months. They will be warned of the changeover in letters dispatched with their gas bills. Karen Jamieson, Eastern Gas Public Relations Officer, said that customers wishing to have bills based on actual readings can submit their own reading with their estimated bill. A revised charge will then be sent to them. In the quarters when the meter reader is to call, the bill will be based on the actual reading and it will correct any variation in the previous estimated bill. The scheme means a number of voluntary redundancies among the region's 170 meter readers. A special scheme is available for pensioners who wish to pay part of their bill every month. Eastern Electricity, which covers Enfield consumers, have no plans to adopt a similar scheme. They will keep reading their meters quarterly.
The Greater London Council are planning to increase their earnings from successful Edmonton incinerator. This huge complex already earns the GLC over $4.5 million a year by producing electricity from the rubbish it burns. Now the GLC is aiming to make money from the 115,000 tonnes of ash which the process produces. Metals will be extracted and the resulting metal-free lightweight residue is expected to be marketed as a premium quality construction material, such as building block or powdered fill. A feasibility study is now being undertaken aimed at establishing a single plant to develop the ferrous metals and non-ferrous metals and inert ash into potential income.
The nasty side of nature is raising its head among the ducklings on the Civic Centre pond in Enfield. A large pike has been grabbing the ducklings and eating them, something which happens each year. The pond is, in fact, part of the new river, and both the ducks and the pike can come and go as they please. A spokesman at the Civic Centre said, "This is nature. I'm not saying it is right, but it is nature. We didn't put the ducks there, and we didn't put the pike there," he added.
When you've 120 years to your credit, commemorations are called for. So to celebrate the fact it's 120 years since the consecration of St John's Church in Clay Hill, Enfield, church elders have commissioned a set of handmade commemorative mugs for the occasion. The Lowcarn pottery mugs bear a design taken from an engraving of the church completed about 100 years ago for the church's first vicar. These mugs, which are very attractive, are on sale at the church and cost £2.50, I beg your pardon, each.
Now we have come to the halfway stage in our programme, so if you'd like to stop your machine and turn the cassettes over, we'll meet you again on the other side.